You are unbelievable.
I know you like it. Don't mind me, kids.
Before we continue, if you believe our stories deserve to be heard, do me a quick favor. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves meaningful African tales. Let's keep our stories alive together. The mansion was too quiet for a Saturday morning. That was the first thing everyone noticed, because normally children played football in the courtyard, maids rushed through the hallways, and music floated from somewhere in the house. But today, silence covered everything like dust. Inside the master bedroom, billionaire entrepreneur Marcus Adeyemi sat on the edge of his king-size bed, his sunglasses still on, his face blank as a stone. He was supposed to be blind. He wasn't supposed to see anything. He wasn't supposed to know anything. But he did. In fact, he had been awake long before dawn, waiting, listening. The door to the bedroom opened quietly. Marcus didn't lift his head. He kept up the performance, his fingers searching for the glass of water beside him, pretending to miss it twice before finally touching it. His sightless act was perfect. But the two people who walked in did not notice. They were too busy whispering to each other. His wife, Liana, beautiful, charming, soft-spoken, the woman the world believed adored him, walked in wearing one of her silk robes. Right behind her was Daniel, Marcus's childhood friend, business partner, and the man Marcus trusted more than any other living soul. Or so he thought. "Are you sure he's asleep?" Daniel whispered. "He barely moves these days," Liana replied softly. "He can't even see. What's he going to do?" Marcus's jaw tightened, but he stayed still. Daniel walked up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. Liana didn't resist. She leaned into him comfortably, naturally, too naturally for a woman who was supposed to be grieving her husband's failing eyesight. Then Daniel kissed her neck. And she let him. Marcus felt something sharp stab through his chest, something worse than heartbreak, worse than betrayal. He had suspected. He had heard rumors, but nothing could have prepared him for the moment his two most trusted people touched each other in his presence, thinking he was blind, helpless, unaware. Liana whispered, "We have to be more careful if he ever finds out." "He won't," Daniel smirked. "The man is practically useless now." Useless. A word that burned Marcus from the inside out. The two lovers moved to the far corner of the room, speaking in hushed tones. Marcus listened, every word slicing deeper. "The kids are still asleep," Liana murmured. "I don't want them to hear anything." Daniel chuckled. "Our kids sleep like rocks." "Our kids?" Marcus froze. The phrase hit him harder than a hammer, harder than the betrayal he had already witnessed, harder than the kiss, harder than the lies. "What do you mean, our kids?" Liana whispered urgently. "You know what I mean," Daniel said with a shrug. "We both know it's possible." Liana hissed under her breath. "Don't say something like that carelessly." "But it could be true," Daniel insisted. "You and we've been together for years. And you said it yourself, Marcus was too busy traveling when both children were conceived." Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. Years. He had pretended to lose his sight because he thought his wife was cheating, but he had never imagined it was this deep, this long, this twisted. They walked out of the bedroom, their footsteps fading down the hallway. And finally, Marcus allowed his eyes to open fully behind the sunglasses. His vision was perfect. His heart was not. He stood up slowly, his hands trembling. The man who had built an empire from nothing suddenly felt smaller than a shadow. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. He reached into the drawer of his bedside table and pulled out a tiny voice recorder, the one he had hidden beneath the sheets every night since he started suspecting something was wrong. He pressed play. And the recording confirmed it all. Every whisper, every kiss, every confession. including the part that shattered him most. Our kids. Marcus sank to the floor, his throat tight, his eyes stinging. He remembered every moment he held his son and daughter, every birthday party, every school event, every night he stayed awake just to watch them breathe. He remembered how he had sworn to give them the life he never had. He had never doubted they were his. Not even for 1 second. But the truth was staring at him with claws out. Betrayal from his wife, betrayal from his best friend, and now possibly betrayal from fate itself. A sudden knock on the door forced him to pull himself together. He put the recorder away and lay back on the bed, slipping into his blind performance just in time. "Baby, are you awake?" Liana called gently. Marcus turned his head slowly toward her voice. "Yes, I'm awake." His voice was calm, too calm, because inside him a storm was rising. Liana walked in and sat beside him. He felt the weight shift on the bed. Then he felt her hand touch his arm, soft, caring, pretending. "Do you need help getting downstairs?" she asked sweetly. "No," he whispered, "I'm fine." "Okay, I'll come back to check on you." She left, closing the door behind her. Marcus slowly removed his sunglasses. His eyes were sharp, focused, burning with anger. He wasn't blind. He had never been blind. He had only pretended, to test her loyalty, to see if she truly loved him or if she only loved his wealth. Now he had his answer. But the nightmare was far from over. Later that afternoon, when the children came into the room, laughing, running, climbing into his arms like they always did, Marcus felt another wave of pain hit him. His daughter hugged him tightly, giggling. "Daddy, come downstairs. Mommy made pancakes." "Daddy." The word stabbed him in a way no enemy ever could. He held her close, inhaling the scent of her hair, fighting the urge to break down. The little girl had no idea of the storm swirling around her. Neither did his young son, who climbed onto the bed and started tugging at Marcus's hand. "Daddy, let's go." Marcus forced a smile. "Okay, let's go." He followed them downstairs, still pretending to be blind, his steps slow, his head tilted like a man who cannot see. But as they crossed the living room, he spotted something, a sight that made his heart stop completely. Daniel, sitting on the couch, holding Marcus's son on his lap, teaching him how to hold a toy car, exactly the way Marcus taught him long ago. Daniel looked up, locked eyes with Marcus for a split second and smirked. The smirk of a man who thought he had already won. Marcus kept walking slowly, carefully, pretending not to see, pretending not to know, pretending not to feel his entire world falling apart. But then, right as he reached the dining table, Marcus heard something that pushed him past the breaking point. Daniel said softly, but loud enough, "Someday I'll tell you the truth, little man." Marcus stopped. Every muscle in his body froze. Daniel smiled. Liana gasped. The tension in the dining room was heavy enough to cut with a knife. Marcus stood still beside the table, his sunglasses hiding the fury burning behind his eyes. Daniel's smirk had vanished, replaced with the fake, friendly smile he wore around the children. Liana's face had gone pale, her fingers trembling as she held a plate of pancakes. "Marcus, sit please," she said, forcing her voice into something soft and normal sounding. "Let me help you." Marcus didn't answer. He took a slow breath, steadied himself, and reminded his legs to behave like those of a blind man. He reached out and pretended to feel for the chair. Liana rushed to guide him. He hated her touch now. He hated how she pretended. He hated how he had to pretend too. The children sat, happily unaware of the storm brewing around them. Their laughter filled the air, mixing painfully with the lies in the house. Daniel sat across the table, cutting pancakes for Marcus's son like he belonged there, like he had authority, like he had some hidden claim. Marcus swallowed hard. He needed time. He needed proof. He needed a plan. And he couldn't afford to explode, not yet. He forced out a calm voice. "Thank you, everyone, let's eat." Breakfast went on with uncomfortable silence between the adults and cheerful noise from the kids. Every sound felt loud to Marcus, every whisper between Liana and Daniel, every glance they exchanged when they thought he couldn't see. After breakfast, Daniel excused himself to take a call in the backyard. Liana walked the children to the family room to watch cartoons. Marcus quietly slipped away and followed Daniel at a distance, staying behind the hallway wall. Daniel's voice was low but clear enough. "Yes, everything is going smoothly. He's still acting blind. No, he has no idea. Liana said he barely moves." Marcus's chest tightened. "So stay calm," Daniel continued. "When the time is right, he'll sign those papers without knowing what they really mean." "Papers?" Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He leaned closer. "Yes," Daniel said again, "the asset transfer documents. Once everything is in our names, we'll disappear with the kids. No one will ever know." Marcus's heart dropped. Disappear with the kids. Assets transferred. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a planned destruction of his entire life. His blood boiled, but he held onto the wall tightly to keep himself grounded. One wrong move, one confrontation now, and they might flee early. Marcus needed evidence, solid, undeniable evidence, and he needed it before they executed their plan. Daniel finally ended the call and walked back inside. Marcus slipped quietly into the living room just in time for the children to run toward him. "Daddy, come sit with us," his daughter said, pulling his hand. Daniel entered behind them, his tone suddenly playful again. "Buddy, didn't you want to show me your new drawing?" Marcus turned slightly toward the voice. "He can show me too." Daniel paused. There was silence. Then Daniel laughed awkwardly. "Of course." The boy brought the drawing. A simple picture of a family, mom, dad, sister, and Uncle Daniel standing right next to them. Daniel pointed proudly. "Look, he even drew me next to them." Marcus smiled slowly. "I see." Inside, he felt crushed. His own children saw Daniel as part of the core family. Was the child trying to tell him something without knowing? Was the child revealing something he had no idea he was revealing? Marcus swallowed the pain, keeping his voice steady. "It's a beautiful drawing." As the day went on, Liana tried to behave like a loving wife, hovering around him, asking if he needed help, patting his shoulder. Marcus answered politely but kept a cold distance. She noticed. Her face tightened with worry. She walked him to their bedroom later in the evening. "Marcus, are you okay? You seem quiet." "I'm just tired," he replied, forcing a weak smile. "My eyes, they ache." She sat on the bed beside him, gently touching his hand. "I'm here for you. I'll always be here." Her words nearly made him explode. He withdrew his hand calmly. "I need to rest." She hesitated before standing. "Okay, call me if you need anything." The door closed softly behind her. Marcus immediately sat up, pulled out his recorder and placed it on the bedside table. Then he opened a hidden compartment inside the closet, one only he knew about, and removed a second phone, fully charged. He dialed a private investigator he had used once in the past. "I need urgent help," Marcus said quietly. "DNA tests, 2 children, and a background sweep on someone." "Who?" "Daniel Brooks and my wife." The investigator paused. "This sounds serious, sir." "It is," Marcus whispered, "and I have reason to believe the children may not be mine." "We'll handle it immediately." "I also need legal documents reviewed. Someone is trying to make me sign transfer agreements. I want everything inspected quietly." "Understood." Marcus ended the call and sat in the dark room, breathing deeply. He wasn't a weak man. He wasn't helpless. He wasn't blind. He would not let two snakes steal his legacy or his children without a fight. But something happened that night that shook him even further. When the house became still and everyone was asleep, Marcus stepped out quietly to get a glass of water from the kitchen. On his way back, he heard murmuring from downstairs. Daniel's voice. Liana's voice. They were whispering in the living room. Marcus hid behind the staircase. "We need to speed things up," Daniel whispered urgently. "Marcus is acting weird today. I think he's becoming suspicious." "How?" Liana said nervously. "He can't even see." "I don't know," Daniel answered. "But we can't risk waiting. We need him to sign those documents in the morning." Liana's breathing became unsteady. "What if he refuses?" Daniel smirked. "Then we'll make him. He trusts you. Just do your crying act. Tell him the doctors need signatures for emergency treatment. He'll sign." Liana swallowed. "And the kids?" Daniel sighed. "We take them away once everything is done. They belong with me anyway." Marcus felt his whole world tilt. Daniel's voice dropped even lower. "I know they're mine, Liana." Liana gasped. "Stop saying that." "I know what I know," Daniel said, "and soon nobody can stop us." Marcus's heart stopped. Daniel was certain. Certain the children were his. The whispering faded as they parted ways. Marcus slipped back into his room silently. Tomorrow, everything would begin. The truth. The confrontation. The unraveling of their lies. He lay on the bed with his sunglasses on, staring at the ceiling he could perfectly see. And the chapter ends the moment Marcus whispered to himself, "Tomorrow I end this." Morning came too quickly. The sunlight slipped past the curtains and spread across the room like a quiet reminder that the day of truth had arrived. Marcus sat up slowly, still pretending to be blind as he rubbed his eyes. But inside, his mind was sharper than ever, counting every second, every movement, every breath. This was the day his enemies, two people he once loved, planned to destroy him. He wasn't going to let them. He stepped out of bed and moved toward the bathroom, still pretending to feel the walls for balance. As he washed his face, he stared into the mirror and looked himself in the eyes. The man staring back at him no longer looked tired or confused. He looked like someone who had found a purpose. And this purpose was painful, but necessary. Downstairs, he could already hear Liana moving around in the kitchen. Her voice carried a fake sweetness that made his jaw tighten. He also heard Daniel's footsteps packing around by the living room, waiting, like a wolf waiting for its prey to walk into the trap. Marcus dried his face and put his sunglasses back on. The performance had to be perfect until the very last moment. He made his way down the stairs slowly. Liana rushed toward him immediately. "Marcus, sweetheart, let me help you," she said, taking his arm gently. He didn't respond. "Are you okay?" she pressed. He nodded, just tired. She guided him to the dining table, where Daniel sat pretending to be worried. "Bro, you good?" Daniel asked in a low voice. Marcus forced a small smile. "I'm fine." Daniel nodded and cleared his throat. "Listen, we need to talk about something important today, really important." Marcus already knew where this was going, but he responded calmly, "Okay." Liana placed a bowl of oatmeal in front of him. "Eat first, we'll talk after." But her hands were shaking. Daniel's eyes kept darting between Marcus and the hallway, where Liana had placed a brown folder earlier. The folder containing the asset transfer documents. Everything was happening exactly the way Marcus expected. The children soon ran into the dining room, full of morning energy. They hugged Marcus tightly. Their laughter made his chest ache. He held them a little longer than usual, closing his eyes as pain pressed down on him. He didn't know what the DNA results would eventually say. But he knew one thing. These children were innocent. Whatever happened next, he would protect them. Forever. "Daddy, can we show you something later?" his daughter asked brightly. Marcus forced a smile. "Of course." Daniel glanced at them uncomfortably. The children were the only part of the situation he couldn't fully control, and that bothered him. After breakfast, Liana cleared the table nervously. "Marcus," she said softly, "can we go to the study? There are documents you need to sign." He nodded slowly. "Lead the way." Daniel walked ahead, pretending to guide him, though he kept glancing behind him to be sure. Marcus followed, counting his steps like a blind man would. They entered the study, a quiet room lined with bookshelves and a large mahogany desk. The brown folder rested neatly on top. Liana stood beside the desk, wringing her hands. Daniel walked around to the other side, blocking Marcus's view of the window. Perfect. They had positioned themselves exactly, as people who thought they were in control. "Marcus," Liana began softly, it's paperwork from the doctor. They need your signature to approve your next stage of treatment." Daniel nodded quickly. "Yes, just routine stuff." Marcus lowered his head, pretending to search for the chair before sitting. "Treatment." "Yes," Liana said, "to help your eyes." Daniel slid the folder toward him. "Just sign at the bottom, it's nothing major." Marcus rested his hand on the table, pretending to feel for the document. Then he suddenly paused. He lifted his head and turned it toward their voices. "Liana," he said quietly, "come closer." She blinked. "Why?" "I want to touch your face. I want to feel you, to make sure you're still here." Her eyes softened with guilt for the wrong reasons. She thought he was scared, not suspicious. She leaned in. Marcus raised his hand and brushed her cheek lightly. Her skin felt warm. Her heartbeat was fast. He let his hand linger for 1 second too long. Daniel looked disturbed. "Bro, just sign the papers. You can do that later." Marcus turned toward Daniel. "You sound nervous." Daniel swallowed. "Nervous? Why would I be nervous?" Marcus looked down again, pretending to feel for the papers. Then suddenly, he pushed the folder back. Liana froze. Daniel's hand twitched. "Why did you push it away?" Liana whispered. Marcus leaned back slowly. "Because before I sign anything, I need to ask you both something." Silence slammed into the room. What is it?" Liana asked carefully. Marcus placed both hands on the table. "Why were you whispering downstairs last night?" Both of them froze completely. Daniel's eyes widened for a split second before he quickly forced himself to relax. Whispering, "Man, you must have misheard." "And why," Marcus continued calmly, "did you say you're sure the kids belong to you?" Liana staggered backward. Her hand covered her mouth. Daniel took 1 step forward. "Bro, calm down, you're confused." "I'm blind," Marcus said softly, "not deaf." Daniel's jaw tightened. Liana's breathing became unstable. The room grew dangerously still. Marcus slowly reached for his sunglasses and slid them off, exposing his eyes. Clear, focused, not blind. Liana gasped and stumbled backward, one hand flying to her chest. Daniel's face turned white. "You," Daniel stammered, "you can see." "I could always see," Marcus said. "I only pretended because I wanted to know the truth." Liana collapsed into the nearest chair, trembling. Daniel took a step back, but Marcus stood up before he could bolt. "You two planned to steal everything, my money, my home, my life." Marcus's voice shook with anger held in place by sheer discipline. "And worst of all, you tried to steal my children." Daniel raised his hands. "Marcus, listen." "No," Marcus snapped, "you listen." He stepped forward, and Daniel instinctively stepped back. "If you ever come near my children again," Marcus said quietly but fiercely, "I will show you a different side of me. a side nobody wants to see. Daniel swallowed hard. Marcus. And you, Marcus said, turning to Liana, you stood beside me. You vowed to love me. You vowed to be faithful, but you destroyed everything. Tears streamed down her face, but Marcus didn't look away. He walked to the door and turned around. I'm giving both of you 1 hour, Marcus said, voice cold. 1 hour to leave my house. Daniel opened his mouth to argue, but Marcus's expression killed the courage. Marcus walked out, leaving them stunned. But as he reached the hallway, something stopped him in his tracks. The children. They stood at the end of the hallway, holding their toys. Both staring at him. Both confused. Both about to ask questions he wasn't ready to answer. Daddy, why were you shouting? Marcus froze at the sound of his daughter's small, frightened voice. She stood in her pink pajamas, holding her stuffed bunny, her big brown eyes full of confusion. Her younger brother stood beside her, gripping her elbow, staring at their father as if he were a stranger. For a moment, Marcus felt the entire house shrink around him. He had been prepared to confront adults. He had not been prepared to break the hearts of children who had done nothing wrong. He took a deep breath, softened his voice, and crouched down, still holding the sunglasses in his hand. Daddy wasn't shouting at you, he said carefully. I would never get angry with you. His daughter took a hesitant step closer. Then why were you shouting? Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came. How could he explain betrayal, lies, manipulation, and the possibility that he might not be their biological father without poisoning their innocence? I was upset about something important, he finally managed. The boy tugged on his sleeve. Are you still sick? Marcus swallowed painfully. No, I'm getting better. His daughter peered at his eyes. Daddy, you're not blind anymore. Daniel and Liana were frozen behind him, watching the scene unfold like people standing over a bomb. Marcus glanced back at them, his jaw tightening. Then he turned to the children. Daddy could always see, he said gently, but it was a secret, a very important one. His daughter frowned. Why? Marcus's heart twisted. Because sometimes adults make mistakes, he said softly, and sometimes we need to find out the truth. Are you mad at Mommy? The boy asked. The question hit him hard. Very hard. Daniel stepped forward. Kids, why don't you come to me? Marcus shot him a warning look so sharp that Daniel stopped mid-step. Liana rushed forward instead. Bobby's come here, she whispered, kneeling down and forcing a shaky smile. Daddy, just tired, everything is fine. But the children didn't move toward her. They stayed with Marcus. And Liana's face crumpled. Marcus stood slowly. Go upstairs, he told the children softly. Both of you, I'll come talk to you later. Promise, his daughter whispered. He nodded, promise. They walked upstairs hand in hand, glancing back at him with worried eyes. As soon as they disappeared around the corner, the air in the hallway shifted. Marcus turned back to the two adults. Liana was trembling. Daniel already looked defeated. You have 1 hour, Marcus repeated quietly. Leave my house. Daniel clenched his jaw, then stepped forward in frustration. Stay calm, Marcus. You're being dramatic. Nobody's leaving. Marcus smiled coldly. You think I'm joking? Daniel spread his hands. We built this empire together. You can't kick me out of. You didn't build anything, Marcus said sharply. You used my money, my contacts, my trust. You used everything I gave you. Daniel's face flushed with anger. So that's it. You lose your mind and push us out. No, Marcus said calmly. I lost my patience, not my mind. Liana stepped forward timidly. Marcus, please, we can talk about this. Marcus looked at her with a kind of heartbreak that turned his voice into steel. We passed the point of talking years ago. You just didn't know I was watching. Tears slid down her cheeks. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But Marcus didn't move toward her. He didn't touch her. He didn't even soften. He simply stepped back. Lee, if this story is already touching your heart, please take 1 second to like this video, subscribe to Black Race Tales, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us keep telling these powerful African and Black community stories to the world. He said again, both of you. Daniel tried again, Marcus. Suddenly, the front door opened. A uniformed courier stepped inside. Delivery for Mr. Adeyemi. Marcus turned. I'm Mr. Adeyemi. The courier approached and handed him an envelope. It's urgent and confidential, from a private investigator. Marcus felt his stomach twist. Already. He signed for it, the pen trembling between his fingers. The courier left. Silence filled the house. Liana's breathing quickened. Marcus, what's that? Marcus stared at the envelope, heavy, thick, final. The results. He didn't want to open it in front of them, not because he feared the truth, but because he wanted to protect his children from the sound of what might come next. But Daniel stepped closer. What's in that envelope? Marcus didn't answer. Daniel's eyes widened. Is that DNA results? Liana gasped. Marcus, please tell me you didn't. Marcus opened the envelope slowly. Liana rushed toward him, grabbing his arm. Marcus, no, don't open that, please. He pulled his arm away. Her voice broke. We can fix this, we can fix. You had years to fix it, Marcus said quietly. This is the consequence. He pulled out the documents. The pages felt heavy, like they were carrying the weight of his entire life. Liana backed away, covering her mouth with both hands. Please, please don't read it. Daniel stood still, like a man waiting to hear a verdict he already suspected. Marcus unfolded the first paper. His eyes scanned the printed lines once, then twice, then a third time. The hallway was silent, except for Liana's soft sobbing. Daniel whispered, well, what does it say? Marcus lowered the paper slowly. He looked at Daniel first, then at Liana. His voice came out low, controlled, devastating. It says, he started. But before he could finish, his phone rang. Everyone jumped. Marcus looked at the screen. It was the investigator. He answered. Sir, the investigator said, voice urgent, I'm calling to warn you. Your best friend and your wife have been trying to access your accounts. They attempted to initiate a transfer early this morning. Marcus closed his eyes. Daniel cursed under his breath. And sir, the investigator continued, the DNA results are correct. I sent them to your house, but I wanted you to hear it from me first. Marcus's throat tightened. Tell me. The investigator hesitated. Then he spoke. Neither of the children share your DNA. Silence. Pure, devastating silence. His hand shook. The phone slipped slightly, and he caught it. Daniel stared at the floor. Liana collapsed to her knees, sobbing so loudly the whole neighborhood could have heard her. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't force himself to process the words. Not his. Not one. Not even one. After a long, suffocating silence, he whispered into the phone. Thank you. He ended the call. The papers hung loosely from his hand. He felt the ground disappear beneath him. He wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't shaking. He was simply empty. He looked slowly at the staircase, where his children had gone minutes earlier, where two innocent souls played, laughed, and loved without knowing the storm surrounding them. Liana crawled toward him. Marcus, please, please, I'm begging you. Daniel stepped back, afraid. Marcus didn't look at either of them. He stared at the floor, his voice almost dead. You lied about everything, he whispered, everything. Liana sobbed harder, grabbing his leg. Please, don't take them away from me. But Marcus didn't move. He didn't bend. He didn't forgive. The chapter ends the moment Marcus softly says, "You have torn apart the only world I ever cared about." The house was silent. Too silent. Liana knelt on the floor, crying into her hands, her body shaking as though someone had ripped out her heart. Daniel stood stiffly by the wall, arms crossed, jaw tight, unable to look directly at anyone. But Marcus did not move. He simply stood there, the DNA papers hanging loosely from his hand, like they weighed 1,000 kilograms. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He didn't break anything. His stillness was worse. It terrified everyone in the room. After a long stretch of suffocating quiet, Marcus turned away from Liana and walked toward the staircase, slowly, deliberately, like a man walking through fire. Liana scrambled after him on her knees, grabbing his leg. "Please, Marcus, please, listen to me. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant to." He jerked his leg away without touching her. She collapsed again. Daniel swallowed hard. "Marcus, let's be realistic. We can work something out." Marcus turned his head slightly. "Work something out." Daniel exhaled, trying to regain his confidence. "Look, the truth is out. Yes, but the kids, they need stability. If we just calm down and talk." "You think I'm worried about stability?" Marcus asked quietly. Daniel's mouth tightened. "You love those kids, even if they're not." "Be careful," Marcus said sharply, his tone slicing through the air. Daniel stopped talking. Marcus turned away and climbed the stairs. Step by step. Pain in each one. Not physical pain. The kind that comes when everything you ever believed about your life collapses in front of you like a house of cards. At the top of the stairs, two little faces peeped at him from the hallway. His daughter held her brother's hand, both of them staring with worry and innocence. "Daddy," she whispered. Marcus forced a smile, something small and fragile. "Come here." They ran to him immediately, hugging his legs. He placed a hand on each of their heads, and for a moment, just a moment, he let himself breathe. He guided them to their room and closed the door gently behind him. Inside, toys were scattered, coloring books lay open, and two little beds were unmade from their early morning play. Everything looked normal. Everything looked peaceful. But nothing was peaceful. "Daddy," his son whispered, "are you sad?" Marcus knelt and drew them close. "I'm not sad because of you. I need you to know that." His daughter's eyes filled with tears. "Is Mommy okay?" Marcus closed his eyes briefly. "Mommy made a very big mistake." "Are you mad at her?" the boy asked. Marcus hesitated. "I'm hurt," he said softly, "but I will never hurt you. You will always be safe with me." His daughter leaned into him. "We love you, Daddy." Those words felt like a knife. He hugged them tightly, so tightly he feared he might never want to let go. But soon he stood. "Stay in your room for now," he whispered, "and no matter what you hear downstairs, stay here until I come back." They nodded, though they didn't understand. He kissed their foreheads, stepped out, and closed the door behind him. Downstairs, Daniel and Liana were facing the destruction of their own making. Daniel paced, Liana sobbed on the couch. Marcus descended slowly. Liana stood up immediately. "Marcus, please, just let me explain." "There's nothing you can say," he said flatly. "But I never wanted to hurt you," she cried. "I swear on my life." "You didn't hurt me," Marcus replied coldly. "You destroyed me." Daniel stepped forward, trying to regain control. "Listen, let's just talk like men." Marcus's eyes hardened. A man doesn't sleep with his best friend's wife. Daniel flinched. "And a man doesn't raise another man's children behind his back," Marcus continued. Daniel's face broke for a moment, but he forced himself to remain calm. I, I love them, Marcus. You can't deny what's already true. Marcus took a step forward slowly. Say that again. Daniel swallowed and stayed silent. Marcus nodded once. I thought so. Liana stepped between them before the quiet turned deadly. Marcus, I know what I did was wrong. I know I deserve whatever punishment you decide. But please, please don't separate me from the children. They are innocent. You think I don't know that? He asked sharply. She broke again. Marcus took a long breath. You both have 1 minute to leave this house. Daniel scoffed. You can't be serious. 1 minute, Marcus repeated. And if you're still here after that, security will remove you by force. Daniel laughed bitterly. Security, you think your men will pick me over you? The main door opened. 2 private security officers in black uniforms stepped inside. We received your message, sir, one said with a firm nod. We're here to escort the intruders out. Daniel's face drained of color. Marcus didn't look at him. He didn't need to. Daniel lunged toward him. You can't do this, I'm their father. Liana screamed. Daniel, stop. Marcus didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even step back. The guards grabbed Daniel before he reached him. Let me go, Daniel shouted. Marcus, you hear me, this isn't over. Marcus didn't answer. He watched as they dragged Daniel out the door. Liana fell to her knees again. Marcus, please don't do this. Don't take the children from me. You took everything from me, he said. She tried to crawl toward him, but he stepped aside. You made your choices, now leave. The guards returned and waited silently for his command. Marcus looked at Liana one last time. A long, painful stare between a man whose soul was wounded and a woman realizing she had destroyed the only stability she ever had. Take her outside, he said quietly. No, Marcus, no, please, she screamed as the guards helped her up. Marcus, don't let them do this. Please, I'll do anything. He didn't answer. Her screams echoed through the hallway until the large door shut behind her. The silence afterward felt like a grave. Marcus closed his eyes, letting out a deep, shaking breath. The kind of breath a man releases when everything he knows has been shattered, and all he can do now is stand in the pieces. His gaze drifted toward the staircase. The children. The truth. The future. Everything would change now. Everything. The chapter ends the moment Marcus whispers to himself, I must protect them, even from the truth. The house felt heavier now. Empty but heavy. The echoes of Liana's screams still clung to the air, and Daniel's threats lingered like shadows crawling along the walls. The front door had barely shut behind them when Marcus leaned against the nearest wall, his breath shaky. Not because he feared them. Not because he wanted them back. But because of the children upstairs, innocent and clueless, whose entire world had just fractured without warning. He stayed there for several minutes, breathing, thinking, collecting the broken pieces of himself. Then he slowly climbed the stairs. Every step felt like a step toward a mountain he didn't know if he could climb. When he reached the children's room, he paused, hand resting on the doorknob, afraid of the moment he had to walk in. He forced himself to turn the handle. Inside, the 2 small figures sat on the carpet, hugging their stuffed animals, eyes wide with fear and confusion. His daughter was the first to speak. Daddy, Mommy was shouting. Did something bad happen? His son clutched the edge of his shirt tightly. Is Mommy gone? Marcus sat on the carpet with them, pulling them into his arms. He held them the way a drowning man holds onto the only floating object in the ocean. I'm here, he whispered. Both of you are safe. Nothing will ever happen to you. His daughter leaned closer. Where, Mommy? Marcus hesitated. Mommy needs time away. Why? The boy whispered. He closed his eyes. How could he explain something adults struggle to understand? How could he protect their hearts when his own was bleeding? How could he keep the truth from cutting them to pieces? Sometimes adults make very big mistakes, he said gently, and when they do, they need time to fix themselves. Is Mommy coming back? His daughter asked. Marcus paused again. He didn't know. He didn't want to lie. I don't know, he said finally. But wherever she is, I want you to know something. None of this is your fault, and I will always be here for you. His daughter burst into tears and hugged him tightly. His son followed, crying silently into Marcus's chest. He held them for a long time. A very long time. When their tears slowed, Marcus helped them wash their faces, straighten their hair, and sit down for lunch. He cooked something simple, noodles and vegetables, because he needed the act of cooking to steady his mind. After they ate, he tucked them into the living room with cartoons, making sure they felt safe before stepping away to the study. The house was silent again. Too silent. He sat at his desk, staring at the DNA documents, his eyes unfocused. A deep ache spread through his chest, heavier than any betrayal. He had raised these children from birth. He had held them through sickness and laughter. He had fed them, bathed them, taught them, loved them. How could they not be his? The door creaked quietly. His daughter peeked in. Daddy, can I draw something for you? He forced a smile. Of course. She ran back to the living room and Marcus rubbed the bridge of his nose. He needed time. He needed clarity, but life wasn't giving him either. A soft knock came on the front door. He tensed. Security, probably, or the investigator. He stepped out of the study, walked downstairs, and opened the door. It was the investigator himself, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a briefcase. Sir, I wanted to check on you personally. Also, I have important updates. Marcus let him in. Come inside. They stepped into the quiet living room. The children were still watching cartoons, unaware. Marcus led the investigator into the hallway where they could talk quietly. What updates? Marcus asked. The investigator opened his briefcase and handed over 2 envelopes. These are the financial reports you asked for. Marcus took them, already knowing they would confirm his worst fears. And there's something else, the investigator continued. Your best friend, Daniel, he attempted to access your offshore accounts 30 minutes ago. He failed, but he will try again. Marcus clenched his jaw, cut off all access, freeze anything he might use. Already done, sir, the investigator said. Then he hesitated. And your wife, she tried to enter the property again after being escorted out. Security turned her away. Marcus inhaled slowly. Good, she can't be near the children until things are settled. The investigator nodded, then lowered his voice. Sir, I know the results were painful, but legally speaking, you still have every right to keep the children. You've raised them. You're their father on paper. You're the only stable parent they know. Marcus stared at him, but they're not mine. The investigator's voice softened. Blood doesn't always make a father, sir. Love does. Commitment does. You did what their biological father never did, even when he lived in your house. The words hit hard. Because they were true. Still, Marcus whispered, everything feels broken. The investigator nodded sadly. I'm sorry, truly, but I will help you through every step of this process. Marcus shook his hand. Thank you. The investigator left. Marcus went upstairs to check on the children again. They ran to him immediately. Daddy, look, his daughter said, handing him a drawing. He looked at the picture. It was simple, made with crayons. 3 people holding hands. A tall man in the middle, him. A little girl on one side. A little boy on the other. No mother. No Daniel. Just the 3 of them. and above their heads she had written, "My family." Marcus's vision blurred, but he didn't cry. He knelt down, gathering them both into his arms. "I love your drawing," he whispered, "very, very much." "Do you like it?" she asked. "Yes," Marcus said, voice shaking. "I like it more than you know." His son hugged him tighter. "We love you, Daddy." And for the first time since the betrayal, Marcus allowed himself to believe one thing. Maybe he could move forward. Maybe he could rebuild. Maybe he deserved peace. But peace was not ready to come. Because at that exact moment, the front door slammed open downstairs. The children jumped. Marcus's heart dropped. Heavy footsteps entered the house. A voice shouted from below, "Marcus, you think you can take my kids from me?" Daniel. He was back. The chapter ends the moment Marcus stands, eyes burning, and whispers, "This ends tonight." Daniel's voice echoed through the mansion like thunder. "Marcus, bring my kids here right now." The children froze beside Marcus, eyes wide with fear. Marcus quickly moved them behind him. "Stay in your room," he whispered firmly. "Lock the door and don't open it for anyone except me." His daughter clutched his shirt. "Daddy, please don't leave." He forced a steady breath. "I won't be far." They obeyed, though their small hands shook as they ran into the bedroom and closed the door. Marcus waited until he heard the soft click of the lock. Then he turned. His whole body changed, calm, steady, focused like a man who had survived a storm and was ready to end it. He walked downstairs slowly, each step echoing. Daniel stood in the center of the living room, chest heaving, eyes wild. He looked nothing like the confident friend Marcus once trusted. He looked desperate, dangerous. "What are you doing in my house?" Marcus asked, his tone cold and sharp. Daniel jabbed a finger toward the staircase. "Those kids are mine. You can't keep them from me." Marcus folded his arms. "You want to be their father now, after hiding for years behind lies and betrayal." Daniel scoffed. "At least I didn't pretend to be blind and spy on my wife like some sick." Marcus stepped forward. "Don't talk about loyalty, not you." Daniel's anger cracked. "I want my kids, Marcus. I don't care what the law says. They're mine." "No," Marcus said calmly. "They're not yours. They're not property. They're children. And they're scared of you. That alone tells me everything I need to know." Daniel took another step, fists clenched. "Move out of my way." Marcus didn't blink. "Touch those stairs and you won't leave this house on your feet." Daniel lunged. Marcus dodged. Years of quiet strength surged through him. He wasn't a fighter by profession, but betrayal had taught him more discipline than fists ever could. Daniel swung again, missing wildly. Marcus grabbed his wrist, twisting it behind his back. Daniel groaned in pain. "Let go," he shouted. Marcus shoved him forward, sending him stumbling onto the carpet. "Get out of my house," Marcus said. Daniel rose shakily, breathing hard. "You think this ends here? I'll fight you in court. I'll get custody. I'll take everything you love." Marcus didn't move, didn't raise his voice. "You won't win anything. You're not even on their birth certificates. You contributed nothing to their lives. You have no legal standing." Daniel froze, because deep down he knew. Marcus stepped closer. "And even if you tried, you cannot win the affection of children you abandoned." That one sentence crushed Daniel harder than any punch. He staggered backward, rage and shame twisting his face. "I hate you," Daniel hissed. Marcus nodded once, "Then leave." Security rushed in through the door, not because Marcus called them, but because they had heard the commotion and were trained to protect the family first. "Escort him out," Marcus said. Daniel shouted and argued, but the guards overpowered him easily. As they dragged him out the door, Daniel released one final, broken threat. "This isn't over." Marcus didn't respond. because for him it was. The door slammed. Silence returned. A heavy, aching silence. Marcus stood still for a moment, letting the air settle. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the emotional weight of everything that had just ended. He walked upstairs again, slower this time, exhausted. When he reached the children's room, he knocked gently. "It's me," he said. The lock clicked immediately and the children rushed into his arms. They hugged him tightly, nearly knocking him over. "Daddy, we were scared," his daughter cried. Marcus knelt and hugged them both, pressing his forehead to theirs. "It's over," he whispered. "Nobody is taking you away. You are safe. You will always be safe." The boy wiped his tears with the back of his hand. "Daddy, is Mommy coming back?" Marcus closed his eyes for a moment before answering. "Mommy needs help. She needs time to fix herself. But no matter what happens, you are loved, both of you." His daughter sniffed. "Are we still your kids, even if the paper said something else?" Marcus felt the deepest ache he'd ever known. He pulled them tighter. "You will always be my children. Nothing can change that." They stayed like that for a long time, 3 wounded hearts learning how to beat again. Later that evening, when they fell asleep in his arms, Marcus gently laid them in their beds and stepped into the hallway. The house felt different now, quieter, lighter, but also lonely. He walked to the study and stared at his reflection in the window. The man staring back was not the same man from a week ago. This version was broken, but stronger. He knew the journey ahead would be hard. Raising 2 children alone while dealing with the aftermath of betrayal would challenge him in ways he wasn't ready for. But he also knew something important. He wasn't alone. He had the children. They had him. And together they would rebuild. Slowly, patiently, with love that didn't need DNA to be real. The final moment of the chapter came when his daughter walked into the study half asleep, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy." Marcus knelt and lifted her gently. "Yes." She rested her head on his shoulder. "You won't ever leave us, right?" Marcus hugged her tightly. "Never," he whispered. "I will never leave you." And for the first time since the truth was revealed, Marcus believed it. He had lost a marriage. He had lost trust. He had lost illusions. But he had gained clarity. He had gained purpose. He had 2 children who loved him, needed him, and chose him. And that was enough to rebuild the world. Thank you for watching Black Race Tales. Remember, every story carries a lesson, and every lesson carries our legacy. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this story with someone who needs its message today. See you in the next tale.